As you know, we have discussed in the past about the Eightfold Path. We call Arya Arthangika Magga, Noble Eightfold Path. This path consisted of 8 factors. So, as a spiritual seeker follows these 8 factors, then he gradually develops his or her mind and moves towards liberation. So these 8 factors, briefly I'll tell. 8 factors are right understanding, which is the wisdom, right intention, having a right mind to practice, to cultivate, to do the right things, right speech, right action, right profession, right livelihood, right effort to abandon the unwholesome qualities and develop the wholesome good qualities, and then the right mindfulness that you are just practicing, mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of the feelings, mindfulness of the breath, that you are just practicing, right mindfulness, and right meditative absorption. So these 8 factors, when they are cultivated together, then we call it Eightfold Path, Noble Eightfold Path. So here Lord Buddha gives an example. If there's a guest house, in a place, people from all directions come. People from all directions come there and stay. People from different religions, people from different regions, different social or economic backgrounds, they come and they stay in this guest house. So guest house, similarly, when you develop these 8 factors that we have just said, then Lord Buddha says that spiritual seeker, he fully understands by direct knowledge the things that are to be fully understood. He understands what needs to be understood and whether it has been understood or not. What are things to be fully understood by direct knowledge? These 5 aggregates subject to clinging. 5 aggregates subject to clinging. We have the body. We have the body here. And then we have the feelings that arises on this body. Then we have the perception, we perceive things. This is good, this is bad, this is pleasant, this is unpleasant, this is red, this is yellow, this is blue, this is male, this is female, all kinds of things, perceiving, mental faculty. Then we have the various mental qualities. Some of them are good, through which, for example, mindfulness or generosity or loving kindness or so many other things. Or some of them are negative, jealousy or hatred or greed or arrogance or all kinds, or ignorance. Some of them are negative, some of them are positive, some of them are just functional. So these mental qualities, they are one part. And then there is consciousness, being aware of an object. Every moment we are conscious. Every moment we are conscious. When you are hearing, there is a consciousness through the ear. When you are seeing, there is a consciousness through the eye. Eye consciousness, and then there is a connection with the mind. Eye hears, eye just sees things. Ear just hears things. But eye and ear just physically receive the visible object or the sound, cannot understand what it is. That's a connection with the mind, being aware of that object at that time, thoughts and feelings in the mind, being aware of that subject at that time. So this consciousness. So these 5 aggregates, or you can say 5 components of our whole existence. What do you call I? I is just this. The body is there, feelings are there, perception is there, various mental factors are there, good and bad and neutral, and then there's consciousness, being aware. So this is whole complex of body and mind. These five aggregates, whole complex, body-mind complex. This is what people can say, this is I. Grasp at I. When we perceive at I, think as I, automatically there is a grasping. At a gross level or at a subtle level, there is a grasping. This is what Lord Buddha is saying here. The form, the body, feelings, perceptions, these things are subject to clinging. People cling to them. Why do people cling to them? Because people have a view. This feeling is when we are feeling a good feeling through the body, or we have a pleasant mental feeling in the mind. We perceive it as I am the one feeling this. I am the one feeling this. Or I am the one feeling and liking, I am the one feeling and disliking. When this body is there, there's grasping, this is my body. So body and the feeling and the perception and the mental factors and the consciousness. There is a grasping. So this, Lord Buddha said at this first level, when people are practicing this Eightfold Path, these five aggregates of clinging, basically the clinging to this body-mind complex, this people can fully understand that this is where the mind clings. This is where the mind tends to cling. This is the object of clinging. This is the first understanding. Things to be fully understood by direct knowledge. What is to be fully understood by direct knowledge? What we cling. This body-mind complex. This is what we cling. Then what bhikkhus are subject are things to be abandoned by direct knowledge. After knowing, after we understood, this is where our mind goes and clings. To the body, to the feeling, to the perception, to the mental factors, to the consciousness, where it goes and clings. Then next he says, Lord Buddha says, what is to be abandoned by direct knowledge? What is to be abandoned? Ignorance and craving. First, he talked about clinging. Whatever a feeling arises in the body, mind tends to cling. If it is pleasant, it clings in a certain way. If it is unpleasant, it clings in another way. Through liking or through disliking, but both ways it clings. Liking also it clings, disliking also it clings. But why does it cling? That is the second thing. That's the second important thing. That's what Lord Buddha is saying. To be abandoned. Why does it cling? For example, we have a sickness. We have a sickness of the body caused by either an external object, a virus or bacteria, or some weather conditions, or because of food or whatever it is. We have a sickness. Sickness. So when we understand the clinging, where our mind goes and clings, it's like recognizing the sickness, that this is the sickness, where as long as we cling, we suffer. That's the first noble truth. Sankitena panchupadana kanda dukkha. As long as beings cling to this body-mind complex in one way or the other, they continue to stay in suffering. This is the first recognition. Then, second level of diagnosis is if there is a disease, there must be a cause of the disease. It has been caused by something. This is what Lord Buddha is talking about at this level. Ignorance and craving. Ignorance and craving. What is the ignorance? Perceiving this body-mind complex as I, me, or mine. The body keeps on changing. If the body did not change, none of us would grow up. We'll just stay in our mother's womb. We didn't grow up, we didn't get out of our mother's womb, we wouldn't grow up and go to schools and colleges, we wouldn't grow old and die. Will not. But what is the growth? Change. Growth is just change. Simple. Then all babies would have remained babies, but that doesn't happen. They grow up. So, the body is subject to change. Feelings, as you go now, say this is a hot summer, you feel hot. Now, you switch on the fan, you feel a little cool. Maybe you switch on the AC, you feel better. Then the season changes. A rainy season comes. It's a little cooler, not so hot. Then the winter season comes. It's more cooler. It's very pleasant. And again, summer season comes. So, like this. When you come here and sit down on this cushion, or in the chair or wherever you are, all of us, when you come and sit, we feel in a different way, one way. When you sit here for half an hour, we feel different. When you sit for 1 hour, we feel different. Because the feelings are changing, body is changing, the way we perceive things. For example, earlier somebody who has a lot of, say some people are fond of eating. Okay. Fond of eating. They tend to eat this or that, prefer to eat this and that. And then if that person, because of overeating or such things, suffers from some sickness, and then he recognizes, okay, this sickness is caused because of my overeating, my bad eating habits. So he reduces or tries to control the diet, tries to eat healthy. Then his sickness goes away. So earlier he had a perception, when he sees the food, he had a perception, oh, this is pleasant, I need to eat. When he recognizes the problem and gives it up, he has a different perception later on. This isn't good for me, I wouldn't eat. Or maybe I would just eat in moderation, that's all. If I eat too much, it's problematic for me. So perception changes. Feeling changes, perception changes, mental factors all the time, instantly they're changing. Now a good thought, now a bad thought, now another one. And because of these mental factors and the consciousness, whatever object we are receiving through these six senses, because depending on these, some of them are pleasant, agreeable, some of them are unpleasant, disagreeable, and accordingly, our consciousness is changing moment to moment. So nothing here in this body and the mind, nothing here within this whole five aggregates is something that is permanent or stable or everlasting. When we meditate, we try to understand this clearly, just like our breath. Just like our breath, in breath and out breath, we observe just as we were observing the in breath and out breath, breathing in and out. When the breath goes in, one way, it's one way, one type of feeling. And the breath goes out, another type of feeling. And the next breath that comes in, is it exactly the same with the previous breath? Slightly different. If you notice mindfully, slightly different. The one goes out, is it exactly like the previous out breath? Slightly different. Both of them may be slow, but not exactly the same slow breath. Both of them may be fast, but not exactly the same fast breath. Slight difference. So the breath is changing, just like the breath. The body is changing. Everything has the nature of breath. That's why we keep saying, everything has the nature of breath. What is the nature of breath? To rise and fall. To go inside, go outside. To rise and fall. Same with all the aggregates, five aggregates. Body and the mind. So this mind has to recognize, and when mind recognizes, this is what we call wisdom. When mind truly recognizes deeply through our practice, through our meditation, when mind recognizes this, that this is changing, this isn't permanent or everlasting or stable, or there's nothing called an I which will continue, which has continued like abiding essence. There's not an abiding essence here in this body-mind complex. This is wisdom. So that's what Lord Buddha is saying. You abandon the ignorance. When you abandon the ignorance, what do you get? Wisdom. The opposite of ignorance is wisdom. When you abandon the ignorance, that you get the wisdom. So by practicing this Eightfold Path, then first level Lord Buddha is saying, you recognize where the mind goes and clings. Then at this next level Lord Buddha is saying, you just don't not only recognize where it goes and clings and suffers, you also recognize why it clings, because of not knowing that none of this is I. This is where it goes and clings. So you recognize, you develop the wisdom. When you develop the wisdom, you abandon something. What do you abandon? You abandon the ignorance. And when you abandon the ignorance, that, oh, this isn't I, this isn't me, this isn't permanent or stable or everlasting, this isn't dependable, then automatically the liking, the craving, the whatever desire or lust or whatever it is, that also gradually fades away. You like something. Why do you like? You think this is reliable or dependable. If you already know this isn't reliable or dependable or not good, then you wouldn't like. It's simple like this. So when the ignorance goes away, the craving also goes away. That's what exactly Venerable Buddha is saying here. Then he abandons the ignorance and craving. This is to be abandoned by practicing the Eightfold Path. And then, bhikkhus, the things, what are the things that you should realize by direct knowledge? When you abandon the ignorance and craving, what do you realize? The knowledge and liberation, the actual experience of Nibbana. That's what the third noble truth is about. These are nothing but the four noble truths. First noble truth, what Lord Buddha says, aging, birth and aging and sickness and death, and in short, 5 aggregates, suffering. In the second one, he says you have the craving to like, craving to dislike, and you crave because you don't really understand the nature of the body and the mind. You don't understand the Panchakanda. That's why you crave. This is the second, which we just discussed. And the third one is all about, he says, as the craving fades away, as the craving, ignorance and craving fades away, then people experience the Nibbana. Tasayava tanhaya asesa viraga nirodha, like this. As the craving fades away, then what they realize? They realize the Nibbana. They realize the liberation. And this is to be realized. Actual experience of Nibbana. Actual direct experience of Nibbana. How? As he said, by practicing the Eightfold Paths. This is and this to be realized by direct knowledge through the practice of Noble Eightfold Path. True knowledge and liberation means basically, in short, the Magga and Phala, realization of the Magga and Phala, the path and the fruit knowledge of Nibbana. This is Nibbana, as you directly know it. And then finally, what bhikkhus are things to be developed by direct knowledge. When you practice the Eightfold Path, then what should you directly develop? This is the fourth noble truth. So, serenity and insight, samatha and vipassana. So, meditative absorption, and through the practice of meditative absorption, wisdom. True nature of the body and mind. Through the practice of first calming down of the body, calming down of the mind, making the mind one-pointed, and attaining to the samadhi. And when your mind has attained to the level of samadhi, attained to the level of peacefulness, then using that peaceful mind to understand the nature of the body, how the body functions, what is the exact nature of the body, what is the exact nature of mind, are they really permanent or stable or dependable, or are they not? Understanding this anicca, dukkha, anatta, impermanence and unsatisfactoriness and non-self about the whole body-mind complex. So this has to be developed. How do you develop? By the practice of meditation, bhavana. So bhavana, in Pali we say word bhavana. Bhavana is not just meditation, means sometimes people tend to feel meditation, you just go to some place, you keep your eyes closed, and then you meditate. That is one part of meditation. If you go to Satipatthana, Mahasatipatthana Sutta, Lord Buddha didn't say only about eyes closed. He says, whatever he experiences through the body, through the feeling, through the mind, or through various mental objects, he knows. Tancha pajanati, being aware. So when you're experiencing things, seeing something, hearing something, experiencing through the 5, 6 senses, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. Or through the, when you're meditating, watching the breath, being aware of the body, being aware of the feelings. Not just sitting and eyes closed. This is one part, but this is not the only part. So the overall awareness, overall meditative awareness, meditative absorption, and this meditative absorption leading to deeper understanding of the body and mind, samatha and vipassana, leading to deeper and true understanding. This is changing, anicca, impermanent. This is changing, therefore not dependable, not satisfactory. It will change. If nothing changes, then things are fine. If nothing changes, then things are perfect. Then you can make a lot of plans and all your plans will be successful. Because nothing changes. Everything will go according to our plan. But then nothing goes according to our plan. That's a problem. Because things change. That's so the wise people, the truly wise people, enlightened people, what do? They find stability in impermanence. Do you understand what I say? Finding stability in impermanence, finding stability in change. How do you find stability in change? When everything is changing, where do you find stability? By letting go, by not grasping, by recognizing nothing is stable here, therefore nothing to change, nothing to fight for. That's the enlightenment. Then you don't need to struggle. Finding stability in a perfectly changing world by not grasping at the change. What people do when things change, don't go according to their wish, they struggle, they grasp. Why did it change? Why did it become like this? Why did it not become like this? This is where people have suffering. When people recognize, anyways, this is all changing. There is no I here, neither in me, nor in other person, nor in anywhere else, then I need not struggle. It's all like this. It's all impermanent, not dependable, not substantial. Then there's nothing to struggle. Then the mind is at ease. Then that is stable. Because it doesn't go to the east, to the west, to the north, to the south, to the liking, to the disliking. Then that mind is stable mind. So that's what Lord Buddha is saying. How do you develop? By practicing the samatha and vipassana. By developing your meditative calmness and using that meditative calmness to understand the true nature of change, internally and externally. When you understand the true nature of change, internally and externally, not just little bit at the complete level, then your mind is at ease. This is to be directly developed by practicing the Eightfold Path. So the Eightfold Path. So if somebody asks you, what are the benefits of practicing Eightfold Path? So these 4 points, nothing but 4 noble truths, but in a different way, Lord Buddha explains. You recognize that the mind clings. Mind clings to the body. There's a tendency to cling. Not my mind clings. There's a mental process of clinging to the physical and mental existence. This is something you recognize. This is the benefit of practicing Eightfold Path. First benefit, recognizing where does it cling and when it clings, it suffers. It recognizes this. When it recognizes this, then what it does? It abandons the cause of the clinging, ignorance. This is the second benefit of practicing the Eightfold Path. Ignorance and craving, it abandons. When it abandons, what it gets? Third benefit, Nibbana, realization. Direct realization of Nibbana. That's what it obtains. And how it obtains, this is the third benefit. And how it obtains, the fourth benefit, through the development of the mind, overall development of the mind, bhavana, samatha and vipassana. Through this development of mind, it lets go. So these are the four direct benefits of practicing Eightfold Path. Understanding where it clings and suffers, letting go the cause of suffering, by letting go the cause of suffering, being free, and knowing how to develop this letting go. So this is, in short, this is the discourse. Call it like this in the Samyutta Nikaya, like a guest house. So Lord Buddha explains that this Noble Eightfold Path is like the guest house. So where the guest house, people from all sides, all corners, all areas come. So when you enter the guest house, when you practice the Eightfold Path, all these things, understanding of the clinging, abandonment of the ignorance, realization of liberation, and path to realization, everything will appear. It's a guest house, means it's a place, it's a house which leads to liberation, this Eightfold Path. So this much we offer to you for your practice and contemplation, and we would conclude today here. If anybody has a question, then they may ask. Yes. See, the thing is, mindfulness, overall mindfulness. It's not just when you are sitting and meditating, but also need to establish mindfulness in your day-to-day activities. When you are talking to your family members, or if you are doing a job, when you go to your workplace and do your job, or your neighbors or relatives, wherever you go, you talk to them with mindfulness. And how they react also, or how they say things good or bad, you receive them with mindfulness. As you establish like this, as you do like this, one way I'm saying, and similarly with our other bodily activities, and similarly at times observing our own thoughts and feelings in the mind. So as you keep doing this, of course, this is something that you have to keep doing. You will initially what happens to people is they do and then they forget, and they remember at a later time, and they do it for some time and they forget. But if you keep doing and keep reminding yourself, then it becomes something that is constant. So it is a continuous effort. Therefore, when this continuous effort, if you can establish, even as a layperson, you're doing your things, but doing with mindfulness, then automatically you recognize how the mind reacts to the things that are pleasant, to the things that are not pleasant. And when it reacts to the pleasant and unpleasant through the liking and disliking, how the suffering arises. So this is how in a day-to-day life also, people can develop basic understanding of the first and the second noble truths. I don't say third. Third is the realization of Nibbana. Unless you develop first and the second to the sufficient level, you will not realize the third. But the first and the second, if people are mindfully doing, then they can surely develop the understanding of the first and the second. As you keep going back to mindfulness and doing things with mindfulness, and what happens when you are doing things with mindfulness, then you will also not just be aware of the physical activities or other people's reactions, you'll also be able to understand how your feelings are in those times, how you react through the liking or disliking, or you are able to let go at times, not liking or disliking, but letting go. That also, what is the letting go? It is like a temporary nibbana for a very short time. When you let go, not afflicted by liking and disliking, this is like a temporary. For normal people, I'm saying, at least they can recognize this is freedom. Rest all, everything is burden. So that's how a lay person can also do. they can develop the first and the second noble truth through their lay life also very much possible. We'll conclude here with the chantings of Metta. Sukhe bhave yang dukkho ahang nichang ahang viya hita cha me sukhe honto majjatta dacha verino imani gamma khettam hi satta honto sukhe sada tato parancha rajyesu chakkavale sujantano. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So we'll meet again on next Sunday, that is on 8th of May, and next Sunday we'll have the Buddha Purnima program. So all of you will be circulated. The invitation will be ready in a few days and will be circulated. And any one of you who is not receiving the updates, you can get the number of our manager, Mr. Chetan. He's sitting behind. So you can take his number and he can add you, and then you'll get all the updates and programs about the